We often hear and say the word medieval barbarism. Ever wondered why is the Middle Ages called barbarian? Which period is called the Middle Ages? What was the history of that time? Let us know today the reality of medieval barbarism. In Europe, the Middle Ages refers to the period of decline of the Roman Empire, i.e., from 476 AD to the pre-Renaissance of 15th century, a period of about 1000 years. Especially in the early Middle Ages, the fall of the former Roman Empire ushered in a turbulent period in Europe. Goths, Vandals, Huns, and other tribes played a major role in the darkness of Europe. More warfare disrupted the normal flow of life, affecting education and culture, and war and pestilence ravaged Europe increasingly turned to religion, leading to the rise of the medieval church. Medieval Europe could not make significant progress due to the tyranny of the church and the rise of feudalism. However, there are more or less examples of such incidents in all eras. So how reasonable is it to consider an era as a dark age? Even modern historians have objection to calling the Middle Ages the Dark Ages. Historically, there is a debate about calling the Middle Ages the Dark Ages. But why is the Middle Ages called the Dark Ages? The term Dark Ages was first used to describe a period by an Italian Renaissance scholar named Petrarch. Petrarch coined the term in the 1330s, described the decline in the quality of Latin literature since the time of the ancient Greek and Romans. Petrarch and his fellow scholars believed that ancient Roman and Greek learning was the pinnacle of human achievement, so they viewed the later ages as dark and chaotic, because according to them no great leaders were born, no scientific invention came, and no great works of art were done during that period. In that sense, the Middle Ages in Europe can be called the Dark Ages. But was the rest of the world the same? The Middle Ages were not for the Orient what they were for Europe, but indeed the Middle Ages were a bright chapter for the Orient. It was during this period that knowledge and spirituality merged with the advent of Islam, and with the advent of Islam the East entered a golden age. Not only religion, but also various branches of science such as physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and even engineering and more progressed. There was a time in the Middle Ages when Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo were the centers of civilization in the Middle East. In fact, the people of the East in that time considered Europe to be chaotic, unorganized, and backward in terms of morals and ethical values. Medieval Cordova and Constantinople were so prosperous that in some parts of the countryside the standard of living was so high that the natives of the rest of Europe did not reach until the 13th century. Their Middle Ages were not a dark age for India, not just for Arabs or Persia. There was no political change and there was no progress them. In fact, India was moving forward in all economic, social and cultural fields. In the case of India, the period from the fall of the Gupta dynasty in the 6th century to the end of the Mughal rule is considered the Middle Age. India did not experience the same situation as Europe after the fall of the Roman Empire. Rather, after the fall of the Gupta dynasty, more than 14 powerful kingdoms were created in India. Buddhism began to spread in India at the beginning of the Madha period, and Buddhist institutions flourished with the rise of the Pal Empire. On such institution was the Nalanda Buddhist Vihara. Numerous Buddhist monasteries were built in the Ganga Padma basin where religious education was imparted as well as other laws. The activities of the Buddhist monasteries at one time took South Asia to an important position in the world. In terms of intellectual practice, later on the combination of diverse cultures such as Roman, Turks and Afghan with Indians formed the basis of a very rich culture. Bhakti and Sufi movement was the gift of this period. Language and literature also underwent a radical change, and India's architectural industry also witnessed amazing achievement. In medieval time, India got developed commercial roads like the Grand Trunk Road, token currency, and an improved agricultural system. During the Middle Ages, many new towns were established all over India by local rulers, leading to the urbanization of rural India. The history of China in the Middle Ages is quite rich. The period between the fall of the Han dynasty in 220 AD and the fall of the Mongol Yuan dynasty in 1368 in China's bright Middle Age. Because it was during this period that China made great technological advances, including the printing industry and the invention of the compass and gunpowder. These three inventions were very important to the rise of the modern world. The shadow of darkness and barbarism cast upon the Middle Ages by European Renaissance scholars is also upon us for a time, and this was mainly during the period of British colonial rule in India in the early 19th century when the British set up their new Western modernism to justify their colonial rule and against alleged pre-colonial barbarism to establish the concept of the Dark Age. The depiction of medieval India, especially under Muslim rulers, portrays the condition of India as bleakly barbaric and ruthless, the effects of which are still with us today. If there is any kind of irregularity and injustice somewhere, we call it medieval. In the true sense, the past means a dark void that needs to be enlightened and merited. Historians and archaeologists fill the darkness of the ages with knowledge, and the more we can fill in the gap, the more clearly the past will shine before us.